What is up, my people? Crash the Pond family. Welcome home.
Okay.
Not a fan of the new intro?
I don't know if I'm a fan or not, but it just caught me off guard.
It's different. It's different,
Very,
you know?
yeah.
You got to mix it up.
Keep me on my toes here. Try. Maybe this is something that we should be doing moving forward, seeing as the Ducks are on a bit of a winning streak. Maybe that's what we do after winning streaks, is we change it up.
Yeah, this is going to be a streaking edition of the pod. We are going streaking today because the Ducks are going streaking. So let's just have a streak off. Streak fest.
Okay.
Is that heavy-handed? Is that too much? I'll go back to the workshop on that one.
Yeah, definitely go back to the workshop on that one, unless we're going to go down to the hall through the gymnasium, all the old school quote.
Yes. Anyway, but so yes, the Ducks are on a 3-game winning streak, and the vibes are good. The vibes are high. The team is winning. They're turning in some solid performances. There's also some rumors to talk about. There are some quotes about certain coaches on certain podcasts. There are injuries. There's just a whole lot. There's a whole lot to chew on today, and hopefully we can give everyone a good overview of what's gone on in this last week plus of Ducks history.
Yep, and try to hopefully break it down for all of you so you can go into the next couple of games feeling better, and also, I guess, address the rumors that are circling, and hopefully make it where it's more so than just either dunking on it or going everyone needs to be gone, and hopefully just adding the context that's needed around all of it.
Yeah, but before we get into rumors, before we get into all of that, let's actually talk about the games, because it feels like most of our podcasts this season have been kind of trying to rationalize a lot of losing hockey, and people being angry in our messages about, here we go again, blah blah, the sky's falling, and the Ducks are winning games, so we should put all of the emphasis on that, because that is what this is all about at the end of the day, is winning.
Yep.
3 in a row, starting with Detroit, on to Dallas, an impressive win against the Stars, and then was it Wednesday night or Tuesday night against the Blackhawks, winning that game. They're going to be playing the Sabres by the time most people are listening Friday night, so that'll be interesting. I mean, if you look at their schedule right now, you've got the Sabres, and then you've got the Kraken twice in a row. I mean, there's a potential for this to go up to 6. Like, not to get ahead of myself here, but the Kraken are not a good team this season.
Yeah.
And the Sabres, I just assume things aren't going well because it's the Sabres.
And that could set up for a really fun Black Friday game. Looking ahead a little bit too much here, but Black Friday against the Kings, if the Ducks can continue this winning streak until then, and I think even removing the winning streak, just continue this playing better hockey in general, and more entertaining and more fun hockey, it can just set up for a really fun game, because last year's Black Friday game was a bit of a dull fest from the Ducks' perspective, and so I think that there's a real hope right now for how this team could be playing going into that game.
Yeah, there is a lot of hope. But I think if they can get on a 6-game winning streak, then how much will the narrative around this team shift? Even if some of the wins aren't perfect.
I don't think it will shift, because remember last year, what was the streak that they had last year? Wasn't it like a 6 or 7 game streak? And
yeah,
I remember people were still saying, well, they're going to crash. And then they went on the 11 game losing streak.
Yeah, but the thing is, they started the season with the crash this time.
True. That's a good point.
So the perception is going to be flipped, hopefully.
Fair.
Yeah. But anyway, should we talk about the game that happened last Friday against the Red Wings?
Yes. So we can get into that game to start. And this was a really fun game overall.
You were there?
Where I was there. It was what was it? My second game of the season, I think I've been to. 'Cause yeah, I was at the Blackhawks game, and then I was at this game. And so this was a really entertaining game where the Ducks ended up going down 3-1. They got the game opener with Olin Zellweger taking a shot that I think kind of floated over, or not floated, but beat Alex Lyon in a way that Lyon might want to make that save. And then the Ducks found themselves shorthanded, and kind of like what we've seen for most of the season, right? They've struggled shorthanded mightily at various different points in time. And Marco Kasper ends up scoring a goal on the power play for the Detroit Red Wings. And then Ducks go down by 2 men, and Jonathan Berggren ended up scoring for them. And then the Ducks allowed one more goal to start a second. And it was kind of after that point they kind of were able to get a bit moving in their own direction. But I mean, I guess what do you see kind of from the beginning part, or any big takeaway from when the Ducks were down 3-1 in this game?
Yeah, so it was kind of the same old, where I thought that they were down 3-1 and they were making mistakes, but they also weren't necessarily playing that poorly.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a weird game where special teams were playing a huge role. And I don't know, like my kind of takeaway as a whole from that Red Wings game is just that it was kind of a weird game.
Mm-hmm.
The Ducks come out of it with a 6-4 win. And I don't want to say that it wasn't convincing, because it was in a lot of ways. They managed to produce, they managed to get power play goals, they managed to get timely scoring, which is something that they have not been able to do really much at all this season. And so you have to give them credit for being able to do that. I mean, Troy Terry getting on the board with a fantastic goal. Mm-hmm. Trevor Zegras, a fantastic goal with a fantastic assist from Olen Zellweger. Cutter Gauthier getting his first NHL goal. Like, there's a lot of positive to take away from this game.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And this felt like kind of you hit the nail on the head. It felt like 5-on-5. I mean, technically, if you look at the numbers, the Red Wings had the better of the chances at 5-on-5, but it was pretty low for both teams overall. Like, neither team at 5-on-5, just from an expected goal perspective, really were able to generate a ton. And this game came down to special teams primarily, and both teams being able to hold serve and then getting some breaks going their way. And so you're right, though, with the goals that happened. Trevor Zegras with that really, really nice shot off the feed from Olen Zellweger ends up going top shelf. A little bit of brouhaha out there about the celebration that he had, where
what celebration?
Just for my take on it, and just to add this to maybe calm people down, I think there's probably a good chance that he was pissed off. I mean, during that period they had juggled the lines around yet again. Right after that, Trevor Zegras, I think, put on the fourth line at one point in that game.
Yeah, he would. The way the rotation was shaking out, he was on the fourth line. Things got shifted by the third period.
Yes,
but he essentially got skipped for a shift.
He got put with the fourth line, and then he was taken off the first power play unit and put on the second power play unit. And so it's highly possible that he was just pissed off. It's also possible that he thought that was a fun celebration to do.
Yeah,
there's different things, and I think for anyone that's trying to read into body language, one of the things that I noticed when I was at the game, and I don't know if the broadcast caught this, but when Cutter Gauthier scored his goal and he goes to the bench,
they got it.
They did that. He did the flyby, but then he went back and had a mosh pit with the side of the bench that had Zegras and Strome and Terry.
Yeah, he was stoked for his teammate,
and Zegras was so stoked in that entire situation. And it's I don't know how you can look at that after that goal, after his celebration, be like, yeah, he's not interested, because look at how he celebrated Gauthier's goal in that situation, and how happy he was for his teammate in that situation. So
yeah,
a lot of reading into body language, not a whole lot of nothing though for me.
Well, I think kind of how it felt a little bit with Zegras. This is just my own view. This is not we're all just kind of reading into it.
Yeah,
I think part of it could have been he was kind of upset at the fact that he was also shifted to the wing, which is another subplot of this game. He was kind of moved away from center for a little bit. And we know how much he dislikes that, because he said that publicly. So there might have been that. But also, I think that where Trevor Zegras is at right now in his season, what does he have, 6 points?
Yeah.
Something like that? I think he's just I'm not going to really celebrate until I'm back where I think I should be.
That's a great point.
Right now, this is not good enough, and I'm not happy with myself. I'm not happy with my output, and so, I scored a goal, and it was actually a really nice goal.
Yeah.
That release with kind of a loose puck was really nice, but it's I'm not, that's not where I want to be. So
yeah.
I think that could have been it too. So
yeah. Yep. Completely agreed. And then the Troy Terry goal, I don't know if there's a whole lot I really have to say on that.
It was
just
sick.
A really, really, really great shot there. And I mean, 2 power play goals for the Ducks, kind of coming in different ways. One from a set offense, one from a zone entry by Zellweger. And also we should note that Zellweger had a 3-point game, in just ho-hum 3-point game in this game. Slowly really starting to find the offensive production there, but in different ways. And I think that while I get Zegras being probably pissed off from getting moved around and all that type of stuff, and there's also kind of your side of it of potentially just wanting to get back to where he's at, but I kind of like Zegras on that unit a bit more, because I think if you're gonna do 2 units and not just run out 1 unit the entire time, there is now enough talent. Like the frustration with the units last year with the meritocracy comment from Newell Brown was that it wasn't a meritocracy with how the units were split up. Like one of the units was clearly better than the other, and they were clearly the more offensively talented, and it just shouldn't have been that way in how it was working. Whereas you look at the units this year, and it's interesting because it's really kind of just the addition of Gauthier in some ways.
There isn't really a power play 1 and 2. I mean, there is if you look at the minutes, and I think at times there has been a clear cut 1, but the second unit isn't like an afterthought either. So.
And I think Zegras there works also, because I also think that Troy Terry on the first unit kind of runs the power play in the same way that Zegras can for the other unit. So having them both on the same unit kind of sort of it doesn't really work that well having Zegras and Terry there together. So split them up, let both of them do what they do best on a power play to help get it running. And that's what we saw. And so getting these power play goals, the power play is starting to really get clicking. And I think Rich Clune deserves a lot of credit. Greg Cronin, I think in one of the post-game comments, or maybe it was one of the practices, kind of mentioned that Rich Clune is like a mad scientist with the power play. And I think it's really interesting to see what he's done, because it almost feels like the start of the season was a bit of what we saw last year, and maybe that was Cronin's implementation. And it almost feels like it's been fully handed over to Rich Clune since, and he's really reworked these units, reworked how they're playing, and is really trying a lot of different things here, and it's fun to see from that perspective. And then the kind of after that, though, you had one of the big moments of the season so far for the Ducks, Cutter Gauthier finally getting his first goal, and the celebration that he had after it. This is a kid that has played extremely, extremely well so far this season, deserves to have more than 1 goal to his name, and we'll get to it pretty quickly, but has more than 1 now at this time. But you could just see kind of the relief on his face in the celebration that was there, the relief that his teammates had. And it was a really nice pass to him by Drew Helleson to get him into the zone, and then takes a shot and is able to score. And you did a bit more of an in-depth breakdown when you did a breakdown, I think, of all of Gauthier's shift for the Red Wings game for the Patreon. So kind of anything you want to add for this?
I forgot I did that video. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He played really well. I mean, he's doing all the Cutter Gauthier things that are good. Mm-hmm. So the things that we saw last year for Boston College, where he's getting his shot off, he's building speed through the neutral zone, he's finding these little soft areas in the offensive zone, getting open, but he's also now doing the small things and bringing the intensity that he wasn't bringing all the time to start the season. Mm-hmm. and all the time in college, and he got rewarded for it. I mean, and by the way, so he was on the 4th line with Johnston and who was it? Was it Leeson?
No, Harkins,
yeah. And it was Harkins. And Greg Cronin straight up said, like, we put him there so we can learn 4th line habits. And part of me kind of winces when I hear that, because you didn't trade for Cutter Gauthier to be a 4th liner. He was a goal scorer, this and that. But when you evaluate Cutter Gauthier's game, what's the missing thing? And I think arguably it is the 4th line habits. It's the intensity. It's the back checking. It's all the little things that don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet. And so now he's doing those things, and he's getting rewarded. And also it was really funny because the shot that he actually scored on, he, went through the 5-hole of Lyon. Mm-hmm. And I posted on X that, it was a nice goal. And of course the Philly freaks found my tweet and were like, oh, what do you mean it's a nice goal? It's a soft goal. But if you look at his release, so he didn't actually, cock back his shot. It was a puck that was just kind of rolling, and he just whacks at it looking away. Like, it was almost like a no-look shot, and it goes through the wickets of Alex Lyon. But I think that's a tough save for a goalie, because you have no way of reading the release. So sure, it's probably a little soft to go through the 5-hole, but it was just a really nice goal, a beautiful celebration, and honestly, he could have had a couple in this game. There was the chance where he was in the slot and Jansen Harkins set him up, and he just kind of hit a shin pad, but the puck was going in. So he's really finding his game right now. Yep,
and then Ross Johnson adds another goal to make it 5-3 in this game.
I forgot about that.
Ross Johnston deserves praise. I mean, he's been a lot better than I would have expected from him this season. I'm still not sure I would really necessarily want him playing over other options, but he does deserve credit for how he's played and gets rewarded with a really with a goal there on a really nice tip from a pass from Jansen Harkins, who I think Jansen Harkins has also looked really good since coming into the lineup. He kind of, you and I were texting about this, but he's just really all over the ice in a good way. He kind of feels like almost like what we thought Robbie Fabry was kind of doing at the start of the season, and was just kind of getting in, causing havoc at every chance that he could in the offensive zone on the forecheck.
Yeah.
And Drew Helleson got another assist there, so Helleson had a 2-point game. And then the Red Wings scored another power play goal late, or not late, but with about 3 or 4 minutes left in the game to get within one, and the Ducks scored an empty net goal to ice this game, and they pick up the win 6-4.
Yeah, it was a nice win, a feel-good win, despite the fact that it was kind of uneven and weird. Some of my takeaways are just that I was really frustrated with Cronin yet again because he was shifting the lines around when it was unclear what the need was. Taking Zegras away from center, reworking everything. It just felt like he was kind of just trying stuff, and he did reunite the Vetrano, Strome, Terry line.
Yeah.
And after the game, when he was asked about the line changes, it wasn't like a specific question, but he was just asked about the changes in general. He was like, "Oh yeah, we wanted to try some stuff, and we also had some analytical data to back it up." And I'm guessing that was referencing the Strome, Vetrano, Terry line.
Has to be,
because the Carlson, Zegras, and Killorn line had never played together, so there can't be any data to back that up. So on one hand, I don't hate the move on one hand to reunite a line that was working.
Yeah.
But I just don't get this continual shifting around of Zegras, who was clearly working in a specific role, and now you're kind of redoing that again. It was weird. I felt like, honestly, this was one of the first games where I felt like they were kind of winning in spite of the head coach. Like I just don't think that anything Cronin really did in this game, lineup wise, was helping the team. They just kind of persevered. I mean, and a lot of it was because of the power play, which is not under Cronin's control. We should note.
I mean, they won this game because they got a power play that scored 2 goals, and they got a little bit of the puck luck that they weren't able to get previously.
Yeah.
And so that's some of what we talked about with like various different games. How if you're not winning a game like the game against the Blackhawks that you should win, just the way hockey in general works, you're gonna have games like this where maybe you shouldn't have won overall. This was a tighter game. I don't think that you could have said they shouldn't have won. But these tight games, you kind of get the regression to come back to you, and you kind of get your goals in a situation where maybe you shouldn't have gotten it. And so that's how this game felt for me. It was a tight game overall, but I think also just from an entertainment perspective, this was probably one of my favorite games of the season.
I feel like being at this game must have been fun.
Being at this game was extremely fun with the quick goals that were happening and being down by a significant amount and coming back. It kind of felt like what wasn't there just from the goal scoring perspective. Like with that Blackhawks game, I come back to that because I was there, and it just felt like they were dominant in that game and just couldn't buy a goal, and they should have been able to come back. And I kind of had flashbacks to that with this game, but then the goals came, and it was just really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, and then also one thing I wanted to highlight was Olen Zellweger's assist on Trevor Zegras' goal.
Yep.
I mean, the fact that he gets through the neutral zone, breaks down the forecheckers, comes in with speed, goes wide, and then that perfect hook pass just around the defender, perfectly onto Zegras' tape. It's just, we're going to have more opportunities to talk about him, but Olen Zellweger is this team's best defenseman right now, and I don't even think it's really that close. So
Yep.
Yeah, good win. Good win.
Yep.
Important to get the vibe wins. It's not always about winning the XG battle. It's about there's some vibes are needed in an 82 game season.
I think this Dallas game is going to be even more so that for me, because I think the Detroit game, all situations, the Ducks ended up having more expected goals than the Red Wings at the end of that game. So that kind of showed that even if it wasn't 5-on-5 that great for the Ducks, power play came through for them, and that's kind of what they needed in that game. The Dallas game is a bit of a different story.
Yeah, this is a totally different, and I guess we'll have an opportunity to talk about Helleson, so I'll save that. But yeah, the Dallas game was so interesting because they're playing the Dallas Stars, who are a very good team, who are a team that is in Stanley Cup contention mode.
Yep.
They are several tiers above the Ducks in the
Yep.
NHL hierarchy. And in the first period, you could even say the first 30 minutes, the Ducks looked like the better team.
Yeah. I mean, this was probably the best concentrated 10 to 20 minute stretch that we have seen from this Ducks team this season. And it's fascinating because you look at the expected goals for this game, and they didn't really generate a whole lot in that period of time, which does check out when you think back on that game and think about it. They didn't really get a whole lot off of the possession that they had. But I think kind of where I'm able to break this down a little bit is that with the amount of possession and the amount of pressure that they're going to have, if they are able to continue that and play that way, you're going to end up generating chances. And part of that, the reason they weren't able to, is Dallas is just very good defensively. But looking at the way they played, they were just, I mean, for lack of a better term, and just to use a Croninism and what Paul Maurice said, they hunted pucks. They got in on the forecheck. They made life a living hell for the Dallas Stars on the breakout. It felt like anytime the puck got out of the zone, it was an instant turnover that the Ducks would then recover and get right back into the offensive zone. And I think that if you want to boil down to, I mean, there's a lot of people that wonder, what is Greg Cronin's system offensively? What does he want this team to be from an offensive perspective? What does he want the identity of this team to be?
I mean,
if you want to boil it down, that 10 to 20 minute stretch is exactly what Greg Cronin wants from this team. He wants a high-pressure, high-tempo team that is able to get pucks back quickly and go the other way, possess the puck in the offensive zone. The only thing that I think he would want is to generate more shots from the slot, more slots from the front net area to have more dangerous looks. But that is exactly what he would want. And I think that for me, outside of the goals, outside of the score from this game, that to me is the most fascinating element from this. Of we have a proof of concept of what this team could be when everything is clicking. And I think that is a big thing to look for moving forward.
Yeah, because in that first period, I don't really think that the Ducks generated really any super high quality chances. Maybe there was one, if I'm really scratching here. But, because you look at the goals, neither of those really, the Zellweger and Leeson goals, neither of those really came off of continuous possession or kind of breaking down the Stars. It was just quick strike, really being opportunistic in a given moment. So they weren't really outplaying the Stars in that way, but they were just, like you said, they were making it so difficult for the Stars to get to their game, to use a coach euphemism. They were really frustrating the Stars breakout. If you look at when the Stars were trying to exit the zone, there were so many times where the Ducks defensemen were just killing off the exit at the offensive blue line. And that's something that Greg Cronin really wants. And that's something I feel we just haven't really seen that much recently. Because when this team is playing well, the D are very active in that regard. So yeah, it was a great first period. It was kind of the embodiment of how Cronin wants to play this team. I will say that there was a part of me, a skeptical part of me, that's like, well, if that was Cronin hockey to a T, and we're sitting here saying they didn't get many great scoring chances, then what does that say? But I'll table that one for now.
I think if I had to break it down, I think it just has to be,
the intensity, the intensity and the application and all of that, the engagement, that was there, and that is a repeatable thing, right? And so that aspect of Cronin hockey was embodied. So
yeah, and I think if I had to break it down to why they weren't getting dangerous chances, I think the Dallas Stars are just a very disciplined team that make it really hard on you, even when you're in the offensive zone and doing what the Ducks are doing to be able to get chances in that area. And like you said, the Stars are just a different tier of team than the Ducks. If they were playing like that against not as disciplined and strong defensive team, I think the chances come with how they were playing.
Yeah. I also think that we've talked about it before, but some of the things the Ducks do don't really help them get these great chances. So anyway,
but to me, that was the story of this game, was that 10 to 20 minute stretch. And there was plenty of other things to talk about, but that to me is what I will look back on this Stars game as being.
Well, and then Cutter Gauthier getting his second career goal in the second period. That was a really nice goal, and that was a really nice pass from Brett Leeson. Arguably a little lucky to get it through the skates as the skates were closing of the penalty killer, but a great play nevertheless. And Cutter Gauthier just gets forgotten in the slot. And it's so funny because great goal scorers like Gauthier, you can look at it and say, oh, well, that's just bad defense. That's just bad penalty killing to leave a guy open. But the great goal scorers seem to get forgotten a lot. They just happen to be open a lot, and that's Gauthier's skill. But from there, I thought that this game was really all about Lukas Dostal. I mean, he essentially carried them to this win. After that strong start, the Stars came roaring back. They were controlling play. They were getting quality chances. I mean, you can't even argue for the Ducks being like, oh, well, they were hemmed in but not allowing quality.
Yeah.
Nope, they were hemmed in and they were allowing quality. But Lukas Dostal is just arguably the best goalie in the NHL right now.
Yeah.
Not saying, he's the best in a fantasy, like in a draft of talent, but just in terms of how he's playing, he is playing the best right now. He was carrying them, but they get a timely goal from Jackson Lacombe late in the third, and that kind of seals it. But it was a bumpy ride to the finish, is what I'll say.
Yeah, the Ducks were definitely on their heels. They definitely were receiving the chances more than they were trying to push play and dictate some of that play the other way with the lead. They were not. I don't think they were sitting on the lead by choice, but that was how it ended up happening. But they got that goal to go back up or stay up in that game, and I think that was big for them to keep the 2-goal advantage, and they were able to ink out a win. And this was one where I think the Red Wings game you can see a lot and see, the Ducks, I wouldn't say they didn't deserve to win that game. I think that you can definitely say that they
did enough to get a win. Yeah.
Yes. This Stars game, I think when you look at it on the whole in totality, this is one where the Ducks were lucky to come out of this with 2 points. And this is kind of the regression side of it, where this was the regression for playing well and losing games. This was one where they played good for 10 to 20 minutes. And
let's call it 20. The first period was just good. Like the first period was just really good. Yeah.
20 minutes. And
honestly,
then,
even the first part of the second, I thought they were still.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe I'm being too harsh there, but
yeah,
they played half of the game. And then the Stars just absolutely took over.
Which is going to happen.
The Stars are a really good team and they're down a goal. That's going to happen. But the Ducks were sitting back and they had to rely on goaltending, which they have to win this game.
Yeah. And I did think, though, that in this game, once again, Olen Zellweger was fantastic. Obviously,
I thought Drew Helleson also looked really, really good.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about him now or once we're done going through the games, but
I think that this game was his best game that he's played. I think that this was one where at least it was just really noticeable him in that first 30 minutes or so, killing off plays, coming into the zone, making really strong defensive plays to lead to breakouts going the other way. And I thought he was just really noticeable from that aspect for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in some his 3 games that he's played so far, he has just looked like an NHL defenseman. He is in the right spots. He does his job on puck retrievals. He's able to win the puck back. He's able to make the simple play. He doesn't try to do too much with the puck. There aren't really a ton of mistakes you can point to. I mean, I know maybe early in the Detroit game, maybe there were some turnovers, but overall, he is just playing very, very sound hockey, and all of his decisions feel very kind of, he feels very decisive. It doesn't feel like he's lost out there. It doesn't feel like the game is too fast for him. Whereas, you kind of think back to some of the games for Tristan Luneau, and although I think Luneau was still pretty good overall, there were definitely times where it looked like, oh, he is not seeing everything right now. Helleson, like, to use a baseball analogy, like, he's seeing the ball well. Like, he just kind of knows what to do. And it's interesting because I think in the AHL, I didn't ever think he looked bad, but he didn't look quite as, I guess, impactful. And I think part of it is just because the AHL is so much slower and so much messier.
And can be more chaotic also.
Yeah, it's harder to stand out in that way. And so maybe the NHL game just suits him better, which is a weird thing to say, but I think that it could be the case. Now, does this mean that he's going to be a locked-in guy for the future? Time will tell, but the early returns in the Drew Helleson experience, I mean, I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but it feels like he kind of saved his career a little bit because it was very unclear what his path back to the NHL lineup was going to be. And he got his chance, and he absolutely ran with it. I mean, he's getting the points, playing solid hockey. It's actually really fun to see this happen for him.
And we even talked about, I think, coming into the season that we just wanted to see him get a chance. Like, see him get a shot, see what he could do at the NHL level. And he looks like an NHLer. Like, he's not like a top 4, but he's a pretty solid bottom pairing defenseman for this Ducks team, and one that you can trust out there in various different minutes. And so I think that's a really exciting thing to see. Now it's about continuing that while he has this opportunity while Cam Fowler's out, because at this point in time, this is his audition for once Cam. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it seems like Cam Fowler is getting traded this season. Like all reports make it seem like that is going to happen this year. And so this is an audition for once Cam Fowler is moved. Will it be Drew Helleson that's here? Will it be Urho Vakanainen in the lineup? Will it be Tristan Luneau that gets called up and plays? Like, this is his audition right now, and for him to make an impact on the coaching staff. Because once Fowler comes back, he's likely going back down to San Diego.
Yeah. Another thing I want to point out from this game is that we saw Karlsson, Zegras, and Killorn on a line together.
Yes.
And it's interesting because Karlsson was listed as the center, but Zegras was the one taking the faceoffs. He was the one doing all the center stuff in the defensive zone, covering low. And I thought that those three actually had a really solid game together. You know, there were those shifts where Zegras was just like a bat out of hell on the forecheck, just skating around, furiously trying to strip the puck. You know, Karlsson, I guess this is more about the Chicago game, so I'll save that. But I thought that those three worked really well together. And so it's interesting because for all of my complaining about Zegras being taken off of center, he was basically still playing center, and it was working. I mean, that line was working. Now, is it ideal for Karlsson to be kind of on the wing at times? That's for other people to decide, but I think that the line as a whole worked. I mean, even Alex Killorn had a good game. So
And so I guess jumping into the next game, as we're talking about that line, the Ducks ended up playing on the next night. They played in Chicago and came out with a win in this game, having to do it in come from behind fashion as compared to the Dallas game where they had a lead basically the whole way and were able to eke out the win in that game. The Chicago game, they had to come from behind to pick up the win in Chicago.
Yeah, it was so interesting because I feel like the Ducks were the better team against the Blackhawks, but it was almost like by default because the Blackhawks just did not generate really much of any offense.
Yeah, and this was an interesting game where I think the Blackhawks really just had a couple of really moments of brilliance from Connor Bedard. That led to those goals, that led to the chances. There were a couple of other just mistakes. You actually highlighted one in a video of Zegras and Karlsson getting
the double brain fart.
The double brain fart that led to a glorious scoring chance for, I think it was Nick Foligno.
No, Taylor Hall.
Taylor Hall, sorry.
You flipped the numbers. 71 and 17. Yeah.
Sorry. But this was a game where kind of after that first period or maybe the first half of the game, the Ducks really shut this game down.
They did.
In a way that we haven't really seen. And for those saying, well, it's Chicago, Chicago is not as bad as people are making them out to be in terms of at least their 5-on-5 numbers and what they've been able to generate. And the excuse when the Ducks were playing Chicago at home and dominated them was that, well, it's Chicago on a back-to-back. The Ducks were the ones on the back-to-back here, and they were dominant in the second half of this game from a defensive perspective. I'm looking at the numbers right now, and it verifies kind of what you saw in the game, that the Blackhawks did not really get any chances.
The Ducks really did a good job of just limiting the Blackhawks. And the biggest thing that stood out to me in this game was that Zegras, Karlsson, Killorn line. Trevor Zegras in that game, it was like, oh, hey, welcome. You know, like, again, I've been a big Zegras proponent, but we haven't seen him be kind of free out there this season, right? It feels like he's specifically trying to address a part of his game, forechecking, back-checking, blah, blah, blah. But last night against Chicago, it felt like, oh, he's just looks like he's free out there. Like, he's making plays, he's doing stuff with the puck, and he's doing the defensive stuff, minus that gaff that was pointed out. It felt like that a little bit against the Stars too, but in this game, it just felt like he was just having fun out there. And it was, I'm going to post tomorrow, but there was like 5 different passes that were just like jaw-dropping passes to his line mates that didn't necessarily lead to goals each time. But it was just like, man, this guy is still, to me, like fully in the cards as a top 6, like second line, you know, even first line center for this team. Which is ironic because the supposed first line center of the future, which I'm saying supposed because that's just how people feel, and I would agree with it, Leo Carlsson. Are we sure Leo Carlsson got a good night's sleep before this game? Because some of the mistakes and turnovers, like both with and without the puck, were egregious by Leo Carlsson. I mean, there was one where he straight up passed it to the Blackhawks. It's like he forgot which team he was on. that's been a little bit of an issue for him. But it just felt like this game he just like stayed up late gaming or something. I just didn't quite get it. But then he scores a goal. I mean, and it's a really nice goal. He gets open for a pass, kind of sneaks in behind layers of defenders and scores. So that line to me carried the Ducks.
Yeah,
because I don't think Strome, Vetrano, Terry had a great game.
No, and this was a game where the Ducks actually had a really good stretch during that second period in the middle of it, and we'll get to kind of one of the reasons for that if you look at some of the chances that they had. But I think touching on that line, I mean, the goal that they scored to tie up the game in the third period early, coming on the back of a power play where, I want to just mention this, that power play expired, and none of the forwards got off. They had 4 forwards and 1 defense out there after the power play expired, and we're just like, screw it, we're going to stay out here. And they ended up generating a goal off of it. I feel like typically in that situation, one of the forwards, typically it's Alex Killorn or one of the veteran guys, makes a beeline to the bench to get a second defenseman out there for if there's a turnover. They all were just like, nope, we're staying in the offensive zone, and it led to the goal that the Ducks ended up scoring with Trevor Zegras making a really nice pass to find Alex Killorn, who finds the back of the net. And Killorn deserves credit. He's been one of the most hated on Ducks players this season, and he's been playing well. Like, I think he's one of the more overhated players on this team this year, and he gets that goal there, and then, as you mentioned, makes a really nice pass to find Leo Carlson to set up the game-winning goal in this game. And so that line deserves its credit. One thing I want to mention before we get into another part of this game, but when talking about killing off this game and how they played in the third period, I was just curious, and I was looking at because it really felt like it flatlined for the Blackhawks. And in the third period, granted they were up to start it, but they generated 8 shot attempts in total at 5-on-5.
That's not a lot.
8 shot attempts in the entire at 5-on-5. The only period, maybe you remove the final 2 minutes where it was 6-on-4. Because I don't have that in here because it's 5-on-5. And from the 8-minute mark on, they had 0 shot attempts at 5-on-5.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, think about it, folks. 8 shots on goal in a period is not a lot. So this is just 8 shot attempts. This includes misses, block shots.
And that's at 5-on-5. All situations, it's a little bit higher because of having a 6-on-4.
But it was 16 minutes of 5-on-5 time. I mean, it's most of the period. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the shot attempts are coming with an empty net. But yeah, like this was a defensive masterpiece, I think, for this Ducks team with how they played. And I think that deserves a lot of credit. But going into kind of the flurry the Ducks had in the second period, one of the drivers of that in terms of getting chances was Sam Colangelo, who made his debut for the Ducks this season. Yeah,
he could have scored. I mean, he could have scored a couple of times. He had some really nice chances. He also, there was that one chance he had where it didn't actually turn into an actual shot on net, but it was the one where he got the puck at the left faceoff circle, and he's a right-hand shot. And I thought for sure he was just going to rip it on net and just kind of, just look down and shoot. But instead, he takes this extra couple stick handles to get inside into the slot, and then he just flubs the shot so it doesn't get off. But I was like, oh, okay, that extra little layer of offense seeking, I did not know he had that.
It kind of reminds me of Cutter Gauthier earlier this season, who got to a dangerous spot, went to take a shot and just flubbed it, but he got to that really dangerous spot to take that shot.
Yeah.
And so,
Colangelo looked good.
He looks really good. He looked a little bit kind of not like a nothing in the first period, but it definitely felt like he was working his way into that game. And then it felt like in the second period was when him and Harkins, I think, really found some chemistry together. And they were working well to cause havoc and create chances. And I think Chicago was giving up the puck fairly easily, and that led to some of these chances. But those two worked well together. And it's something to watch if those two stay on a line together moving forward. I haven't really checked the goals lineup, but I would imagine with both of them being the higher point producers for the goals, they're probably on a line together.
Well,
so they may have some
called up.
Wait.
So.
Oh, to the goals.
To the goals, yes.
Sorry.
He got called up from the ECHL.
You confused me for a second there.
No.
You caught me. But no. But I think that those two were playing on a line together. Someone who watches the goals more.
Yeah, they were.
And so they could have chemistry and be a fun little fourth line for the Ducks team as they're trying to get healthy. But overall,
I also think Jansen Harkins is just good. He's just a good fourth liner. So
and that's what we said when they signed him, right? You and I both thought he was actually a good signing, someone that had really good not really good, but good underlying metrics for the Penguins last year, and a player that could be useful for this team in a fourth line role.
That's what he's been. He skates well. He can even make plays here and there. He's responsible. He's got a little bit of intensity to his game. Like he is an ideal fourth liner because he's not just a guy getting a sweat for 45 seconds and getting off. Like he's actually doing stuff. But
Yeah.
what was interesting to me is that I was watching the game and I was thinking, yeah, Colangelo's a good player, but I see him as more of a bottom six guy. And I was having this conversation this morning in our Discord with Patrick of the Hockey News, and he was saying, well, why are you convinced that he's a bottom six guy? And I thought about it and I'm like, well, I personally just don't see a lot of, offensive kind of creativity and IQ, but he does have that great shot. He's got a very hard shot and he does have some hands and he does have great physical tools. I mean, I think he's a pretty good skater. He's got size. Maybe he's a guy who can fill in a middle six role. Maybe you can put him next to a playmaker and he can fill that role. So I think he's just going to be a very interesting player to watch for the next few years here for the Ducks.
And one thing I want to mention about Sam Colangelo, just as a general statement, that I think he's just a very feel-good story, because I think he's a player that, for you and I who cover this team, I mean, do a podcast every single week and talk about this team every single day in our Discord.
And have been
for
years.
7 years, 8 years. I don't know how long we've been
since
doing this
2017.
now.
So someone can do the math.
He became a player that almost felt like an afterthought to us in the pool, in the prospect pool, that we wouldn't even really talk about in the prospect pool.
And in the pool when we go swimming.
Well, yeah, when we have people over in our podcast pool for all that type of stuff. But like for a guy that was a second round pick by the Ducks in, I think it was the 2020 draft. The 2020 draft, which is not something to scoff at. Like he was someone that really struggled when he got to college, got to Northeastern, didn't put up massive points. Also dealt with the COVID seasons. Yeah. And that really impacted his development, and it took a chance.
His like senior year was kind of the one where he started to turn things around. If I remember
well, and that's
correctly.
because and he took a chance to jump from Northeastern to Western Michigan.
That's right. Yeah,
did that for himself. Went from being 24 points in 35 games at Northeastern as a junior to 43 points in 38 games at Western Michigan, and now has really pushed his way to potentially being an NHLer and someone that we're now having the conversation about.
Middle six.
Is he a middle six player? And also a right shot middle six, which Pat Verbeek really wanted to get for this team.
I will say something about a right shot just looks a little better. You look more skilled as a righty. I'm just going to say it. You just do. But there was something else I wanted to say about him.
So I think he's just a really feel-good story for this Ducks team, for this Ducks franchise, and he could be a really interesting piece if he becomes an NHLer, and one that I don't think either of us expected to be someone for this team.
That's something we've said on the podcast is, hey, if you have one or two guys that come out of these lower ranks of the draft that you didn't expect to supplement the guys that you get from the top end, that's huge for this rebuild, because now it's like you're just finding guys that you weren't counting on.
Yeah.
There was also a play.
Olin Zellweger's in that mold also.
Yeah, Zellweger, Lacombe. I mean, we kind of take Lacombe for granted at this
Troy
point.
Terry is that also?
Troy Terry. There was a play where Drew Helleson carried it up the ice, and it was a really nice breakout in the zone entry. And then he dumped it off to Colangelo for a shot, and I was like, oh, man. This is just poetic. Great for both of these guys to be in the spot, and to be contributing together.
Drew Helleson, if Helleson can become something after almost becoming an afterthought in this Duck system, also very interesting.
Yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of this pool that the Ducks have built, is that yes, you have your top end guys, and that is the most important thing, but they also have this crazy next wave of players, and you just need some of them to hit. Also, how do you feel about number 64 on Colangelo?
It's fine. It's not, if he becomes a long-term NHLer, that's not going to be his number.
Is it bad that I kind of go back and forth on it? There's times where I'm like, you know what? I kind of like it. N64, Nintendo 64.
I don't think I have an opinion on it, because
give him the N64 nickname.
I think I just don't have opinions on rookie numbers, because that's just how the Ducks are. So I don't have an opinion, because I just know it's going to change.
What if he keeps it though? Because he cracked the NHL with it.
He would be one of the few. Ricard Raquel was like the only one that did that.
What about Lindholm? Did Lindholm have a different one?
No, he kept 47 the whole time also. But he wasn't in the 60.
Rough.
Yeah.
Also, he changed it once he left Anaheim. So
he changed it to 27, which he was not going to get in Anaheim.
Yeah. Well, that number shouldn't be retired, but
yeah. Neither here nor there. But but regardless, yeah, so this was a good win. I think that this was probably their best win of this 3-game stretch.
We should also mention Minchkov's goal, because that was a really nice pass from Leeson again. Yeah. And it was also a really nice play from Minchkov to sneak in and get a shot like that on the back door. I mean, I feel like Minchkov's been kind of forgotten a little bit this season. So it was just nice to see him have that moment.
Yeah, yep. And I think Jackson Lacombe, Lacombe and Zellweger as a pairing has been kind of really fun pairing, and it's worked. I mean, the pairings overall have worked. I think that putting Brian Dumoulin with Drew Helleson, I think gives Drew Helleson a little bit of a safety net there. Dumoulin's just what?
Gamer Yuffie in our chat said Super Sam 64. Oh. Ooh, a little play on Super Mario 64. Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm here for it. Anyway, continue.
But I think having Brian Dumoulin with Drew Helleson has worked well. I think it's given Drew Helleson a steady vet NHLer that can play with him. It puts Brian Dumoulin back on his strong side in a place where he's basically played his entire career. And so I think that pairing's worked well. And then I think, even though we don't talk about Pavel Minchkov that much, and I think that you're probably right that Zellweger has been better than him, I also think Minchkov has really looked good this last little bit paired with Radko Gudas. And I think part of that is also he's putting Radko Gudas in a better spot. It feels like Gudas is playing a bit of a quieter game. He's not going out and making his hip checks and getting out of position.
His ass checks
to get out of position. And so it just feels like Gudas and Minchkov, like it feels like the defense pairs are more balanced right now than they've been this season.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I don't feel like Minchkov has been bad at all. I just don't think he's had as many moments like Zellweger has, where I feel like Minchkov is still doing a lot of good things defensively, breaking the puck out, but Zellweger does that, and he's doing stuff offensively. He's also solidified himself on the power play. He's creating offense. I guess that's the difference. Zellweger's just doing it everywhere, whereas Minchkov is merely really good at his actual job, which is defending. Zellweger's just doing it all. So
I think Minchkov's not jumping into that play and being.
I feel like they've
all
told
over
him
the
to
offensive zone.
I feel like they've told him to dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, because he still does it from time to time, and it's so much fun when he does it.
Yeah, there's still plays where it's like, wait a second, Minchkov's behind the opposing net. How did that happen?
Yeah,
but yeah, it feels like maybe it's been told to him like, hey, because even like on the power play, I don't feel like he's as dynamic. So anyway, this has now become a tangent. Anything else on these games?
No, I think this is a really nice winning streak for this team. I think that even though we weren't as high on the Dallas win overall and the Red Wings win overall as we are on the Blackhawks win, I think there are positive takeaways from that. Like the Dallas game, I think if you boil down that 10 to 15 or that not 10 to 15, but the
20
to 30 minute stretch, the 30-minute stretch, boil that down and make that a video for the team to watch of this is how we want to play. You have a boilerplate for this team moving forward to use. And then in the Red Wings game, I think that just showed the resiliency of the team, the ability to use the power play to get back into games, because at the end of the day, that's how you have to win games from time to time.
You can't win them all like at 5-on-5, yeah.
Well, and there's going to be games where you may just not be getting goals at 5-on-5, and you may be even, and you get a power play, and you have to score in those moments. And that was what that game was. They got power plays, and they had timely goal scoring to get back into that game with their power play. And so I think that there were positive takeaways from both of those. And then the Chicago game, I just think that was the best game they've played. And
they were just the better team.
Yeah, they shut them down. And so overall, a really fun period of time, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I don't think that this winning streak has really changed my opinion on the team that much. But it has moved it positively a little bit.
Yeah, I think they're getting goals when they weren't getting it before. That's a big thing.
Well, that's the thing is like I didn't really feel like they were that bad before. Yeah. So it's like now I just feel like we're being vindicated a little bit for what we were saying earlier in the season, where people were like, oh, but they're shooting high too much or whatever. It's just like, but I think we've buried the lead though. I think we've completely missed the biggest takeaway. I think we've messed up.
Yep.
Orange helmets on the road.
Yes.
Orange helmets with the white jerseys.
Yeah.
What say you?
So in the beginning of the Dallas game, I will say that it felt like a lot. It felt like a lot. It was jarring in comparison to the white helmet. Within 5 minutes, I was on board. It was good. Like, it took me a minute to adjust. Once I had adjusted, I don't know if I can see them in a white helmet again.
Yeah, the white helmet looks weird now when I see it in pictures. I'm like it feels like something is missing.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I mean, I feel like the orange gloves are kind of like too much now. I think black gloves would look better, but the orange helmet is just very fun. It's just very, very fun. No, never white. White gloves should never be a thing. The fact that the Golden Knights do it is a crime.
I'm a fan of it, to be honest. I wouldn't do it with these Ducks jerseys, to be clear, but I'm a fan of the white gloves in certain situations.
I hate white gloves. It just reminds me of roller hockey.
But yeah, the white helmet does look really odd now after having the orange helmet with the white
I also
jersey.
kind of like the idea of like the orange helmet. It's like the hard hat. It's like you're on the road and you're gonna go put on your hard hat and bring that mentality, because that's what they did against Dallas. So yeah, I am a fan of the look. I don't dislike the white helmet anymore. Like I don't dislike it as a result, but I think it's just less fun. So give me more fun.
Yep, I would agree. Yeah, and so you want to get to the thing everyone probably is talking about or wants to hear us talk about?
The elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. What is there to say?
That there was an episode of Spittin' Chicklets this week where they spoke about Greg Cronin and more or less said that I think Ryan Whitney said he's hearing early rumblings that Cronin is absolutely despised by Ducks players, and Biz is hearing the same thing. And this is the quote: "At times," this is from Ryan Whitney, "at times, I think he's making life a living hell for these guys, some of the young guys, just old school, just an old school type of way." And then Biz kind of adds a little bit of other things. Biz kind of also adds at one point in time that he hasn't heard this from any player this season. It's just something he heard out there after the exit interviews.
Yeah.
So what are your takeaways on this?
I think the timing of this is very interesting because the Ducks have not had a great, like if you just look at wins and losses, the Ducks have not had a great start to the season. There has been frustration at times with the usage of certain players. There's been issues. There has also been rumblings about Cronin. I mean, there was the Ilya Lyubushkin interview over the summer. Mm-hmm. There was Greg Cronin himself saying that, well, I had to be reeled in by Pat Verbeek last season, that I was going too hard at the guys. Like, that's basically what he said. So we have those two fact points. There's also, I mean, like, this is much lower on my totem pole, but we had Frank Cervalli saying a few weeks ago, don't be surprised if something goes down with Greg Cronin. So when I look at, so just to finish the thought, when I'm looking at this report, I feel like it just, I find it believable because it fits a lot of the things that we've just been hearing. And so does it mean that anything is imminent or whatever? No, but just do I believe the sentiment? Do I find it credible? Yes, because it fits. There, we just have other evidence, and also, Spittin' Chicklets is very plugged in. They did say we haven't talked to any players. I do wonder if that is kind of like a cover for whoever told them, because they're known to be very player friendly. They were the ones who kind of exposed Mike Babcock. So I guess I believe it. I put stock into it, but I don't know if I'm doing anything with it beyond that.
Yeah, and I want to add this quote. This was from Biz, and he said, "This isn't coming from their mouths. My understanding," and like you said, it could be, and that could just be protecting the players. But he's saying, "My understanding is a lot of them in their postseason meetings last year were like, this guy's not the answer. We need somebody different in the seat to teach us the pro game, not just screaming at us, but actually breaking down the video to the point where I'm hearing this is the most dysfunctional locker room in the league, in the National Hockey League, based on the situation at hand." And so I agree with what you said. The thing I want to add to this is that I don't think anything they've said is wrong. I believe what they're stating in this. I think that they've earned the public trust, and this is coming from someone. I'm not a huge Spittin' Chicklets fan. I know there are tons of people out there that like it. It's just not for me, and that's okay. But they've earned the trust with how they handled the Babcock situation. The fact that even in the face of trying to be discredited, they did not back down from that because they were protecting the players and they knew what was right in that situation. Mm-hmm. And so I don't doubt that the information that they actually have gotten this information from good sources and that they're coming out with it as a result. And it's not just like hogwash or made up rumors. But the thing that I'm trying to connect the dots here. And I think when I hear all of this, this feels to me like it's something from last season.
Could be.
And with the fact that Biz said this was specifically told to the organization in in postseason interview or postseason exit interviews. And then you have the Greg Cronin behind the bench where he, like you mentioned, he mentioned that Pat Verbeek had to rein him in, that he was going too hard, that he had to kind of rein him in and say that this team is not where you want them to be at. And that's okay. You need to adjust. And then you also have Greg Cronin saying that I needed to bring in guys that could help me relate to these players. And that's why Rich Clune has been hired by the Ducks team. And there was a really interesting interview by the Ducks on the behind the bench with Rich Clune. And he talked about kind of how he was coached up by more new age people like Kyle Dubas, like Sheldon Keefe.
The way that he spoke in that interview was very different than how Cronin speaks about
well,
coaching.
And that's why I think that interview wasn't intentional. That interview, though, coming out directly after this, I think is fascinating just from the point of view of this interview really, to me, at times feels like it's an expose on what happened last season.
Could be.
And Greg Cronin is understood that, and he's mentioned that he needs to be better about these things. And Rich Clune is part of that solution to come in and help. And the fact that Rich Clune had said that he can't coach in the manner that would have worked back when he was playing.
Yeah.
He had mentioned, he's like, I need to constantly be learning, constantly be doing all these things, because if you don't evolve, you're not going to learn the game. You're going to get left behind. And so I think it's highly possible probable, to be honest, what Bissonnette and Whitney are saying is correct about the team last season. But it's also possible that Greg Cronin heard all of that information was relayed, and he's been making adjustments in the offseason to change that, and part of that is bringing in Rich Clune. And I think you're seeing this team maybe come together with different things. And so maybe things go off the rails and maybe things change and they're proven right for this season with how this is. But we'll have to see on that. And so I think that you can't just dismiss this because it's Chicklets. I also think there's a lot of nuance to the situation where it's not Cronin is driving this team insane, he needs to be fired instantly. Because also on the flip side of it, let's just say this is correct, right? Let's say this is happening right now.
I mean, there's no foul play unless we just don't know that yet.
and not only that, but let's just say there is that right now. Pat Verbeek brought in this guy, and he had said, the quotes that I go back to from Verbeek is that he was really preaching culture, and he was really a fan of what Greg Cronin was doing, and had quotes of they're drinking from a fire hose right now with learning this culture. And that doesn't sound like to me a guy that is worried about the way the coach is handling the locker room.
Pat Verbeek might be kind of happy with all of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he was fully happy with it last season, but I think this is kind of what Pat Verbeek wants. He wants a tough culture. Yeah. He wants kind of a tough, mean culture.
Yeah. And so for those saying that this means Cronin should be fired or is going to get fired, I don't see it that way.
Well, Cronin is also a reflection of Verbeek. Yeah. Keep that, this is the guy that Verbeek wanted because he aligns with Verbeek's values.
Yep.
So everything that's wrong with Cronin is by extension also potentially wrong with Verbeek. But wrong is obviously in the eye of the beholder. I'm also just not convinced that this isn't about the season at all. I think that that's still a possible interpretation. Sure. And so we just don't know. I mean, is it possible that Greg Cronin did a 180 on his entire coaching style over a few months? Maybe. It could also be that he still has flare-ups, and maybe a flare-up occurred last week, and someone talked to Spit and Chicklets. I mean, we just don't really know a lot. But we do know that Greg Cronin seems like kind of a difficult guy.
And the interesting part that I'm going back to is we didn't really hear any of this of him coming out of Colorado Eagles. And so that kind of makes me feel like it was just last season him trying to instill this culture. And so this is me just providing my read on the situation. I'm not saying this is the correct read. This is the incorrect read. Just providing options for people out there on this, basically.
Well, my thing is just that if he's making life miserable for people and the results are not really coming in, or like the process isn't improving as much as we would like, and it's the style of hockey that we're not sure if it's even really the way to go long term, he becomes more like a stopgap coach.
Yes, I would agree.
He's the coach that comes in, kind of, is the adult in the room to clean up the act of the young players. And I think that, to his credit, some of the young players are growing in that respect. So you can't fully throw him out. But he comes in, helps develop the young players, gives them the habits that they're missing. But ultimately, his philosophy and strategy just isn't going to be enough to then be a contending team down the road. Yep. I'm talking like a year or two from now. So for me, I guess this report makes me wonder, like, is it likelier now that he gets let go this summer? We saw Jim Montgomery get fired from the Bruins. Could he be next in line? But I agree with you that I don't think anything is imminent, and I would be very surprised if Greg Cronin got fired this season. Like, I would be genuinely surprised. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying I would be surprised because of just how much you talked about it, but just how much runway that this whole Ducks rebuild has. Like, Paverbeek has the longest leash in the league right now. I mean, him and like a few other GMs, and then Cronin by extension has a very long leash as well. So I don't think that Paverbeek will be in a rush to do anything unless he's just like, well, Jim Montgomery is just a huge upgrade, got to go get him now, or something like that. So
Yep. All right. I guess the only other thing is the trade bait board came out for
should we talk about McTavish going to IR?
Oh, yeah, he's back.
He's back, but I think it was interesting that he was out for a few games and went to IR, and we talked about it early on in the season, but it's like, is he playing hurt? Is he, is there something lingering there? Because did it ever even come out how he got hurt? Like, what was the thing that caused him to go on the shelf? It didn't.
It was a lingering thing, I think they said.
Yeah, and so I'm very curious now. He's back. I think at practice he was skating with Johnston and who else was he skating with? Not Leeson.
It was Johnston / Colangelo and Harkins.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how he looks. Hopefully the time off did him some good and he comes back strong, because we were talking about it this morning. I was like, he looked pretty good in the preseason. He looked fast. He looked strong in the preseason, and then it just kind of went away. So I'm wondering if he kind of had a little bit of the Zegras situation last year where he just came in and like was never fully right. So fingers crossed for that, because it would be good for him and the team.
Yep. And then trade bait board for the Athletic, Chris Johnston has put that out, and Cam Fowler is third on that list. He has Frank Vetrano sixth. The thing that's weird to me is he has Trevor Zegras seventh after last week on his podcast stating that he did not expect Trevor Zegras to be high on his list. So I don't know if that is just, if there's any new information there that he's not reporting, because there's nothing within the blurb that actually feels like there's information there. So it just feels odd to me that there's a change there. But then also has, already mentioned Cam Fowler, but has John Gibson 24th on the list.
Well, I think what's interesting is he mentioned how potentially Zegras is no longer feeling great about the situation. He didn't say it explicitly, but there was some reference.
He said the production has dried up, as has some of the players' enthusiasm.
Yeah, which is new. We haven't heard that before. Well, that's completely new.
But we don't know if that's actually something that's been levied to him, or if that's a reading. If
he said that without any backing, that would just be a lie then.
Well, no, but I think that is just exactly what you saw on the internet with that goal against the Red Wings. Everyone was saying he's so unenthusiastic, he doesn't care. Like, that to me is what that reads at with how the internet reacted to that goal.
Do you think that Chris Johnston would base something off of a goal celebration?
Yes. With how I do like Chris Johnston a lot.
That makes him less reliable then to me.
This is not necessarily like a report of information. Like, he's not stating, I have heard that his enthusiasm is lower. He's like I've heard from the player. This is just the production has dried up, as has some of the players' enthusiasm. Enthusiasm to me reads as I'm reading the player's body language on the ice. That is that is what people would say about Austin
or
Matthews.
It could be that that's what he's heard.
Sure, but it's not reported that way, I guess, is the difference there.
Well, I mean, he's literally stating that that is a statement of fact.
Yes, but I would push back on that and state that I think that we don't understand where that information is coming from. If it was just the on ice celebration and he's going into that, which we kind of dove into.
I mean, it could be that Zegras is sick of Cronin.
Yeah, no,
it could be.
But I just think that this is an easy takeaway. There's not a whole lot in this that actually feels like in depth with information, because it's weird that he's not reporting what he said on the podcast of the Ducks are happier with how he's playing.
Well, it's interesting that you didn't mention Frank Vetrano, who's ahead of Zegras on this list.
I did. I said Vetrano sixth.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of interesting that he's there because I don't feel like the Ducks are going to trade him, but
yeah, I'm curious how much of this is from information and how much of this is just first trade board of the season, throwing the names on there and then seeing the information that comes afterwards.
Yeah, well, now I don't really trust this trade board as much. If we're just saying stuff like, "Oh, well, it looks like the enthusiasm is gone," if it's just based off of celebration. So
I think that enthusiasm to me is a buzzword that is like body language reading.
Well, I do wonder what will happen with Vetrano. Now, this is a separate topic, but
yeah,
because he's not having a great season. Like, he's not playing poorly, but he's just not. He's not. He was never going to top what he did last year.
No, the best time to trade him was last deadline or so the off season.
Yeah, so I don't know. Anyway, that's a separnt topic. Yeah, we'll have time to discuss that.
All right. Anything else that you want to touch on before we get to questions?
Brad Marchand is on the trade board. Oh my.
Yeah, he's an expiring contract.
Yeah, but would the Bruins trade Brad Marchand? That feels unconscionable.
Don't know.
Anything else that I wanted to touch on? Fabry out for months.
Fabry out. Oh, Brock McGinn out.
Well, we don't actually know his timeline, do we?
We just know that he's out.
Yeah, it looked really bad.
Yeah.
He got hurt. He crashed into the boards, and you just feel absolutely terrible. I think his injury last season was the back, and this looked like his leg, so at least it's not re-aggravating the same thing. So that's good. Tough for Fabry. It kind of sucks because I thought that he was bringing depth to this team. But at the same time, this was kind of the deal with Robbie Fabry. This is why the Red Wings had to pay someone to get rid of him, because his health is always touch and go. And I also I'm not happy he's injured, but it is creating opportunities for like a Sam Colangelo. And ultimately that is probably more valuable for this team at this juncture. So it sucks, but there is a silver lining.
Yep. All right, so let's get into questions. We're going to start with our Patreon exclusive Discord. Go to patreon.com/crashspawn, where you get access to our Discord at the $2 tier. So Shake and Wing said, what D-man has the highest ceiling? I think Minchikov.
Yeah, it's still Minchikov. I think that Zellweger's been better, but if Minchikov puts it all together, he's got the higher ceiling.
Yep. And Dalton Keys asked, hypothetically, if Ovi was 1 or 2 goals away from breaking the goal record and the Caps came to Anaheim and you had tickets to the game, would you be rooting for Ovi to break the record so you could witness history, or would you be rooting for the Ducks to shut him down so that he breaks it against a different team? Oh, I'm definitely rooting for him to break the record. I want to see history.
Yeah.
I guess same question for you with the Sharks. I would assume you'd be in the same position, even though you're not a Sharks fan.
Yeah, I don't know what the Sharks part of it, but yes,
it's because they're local to you.
So I want to see history, of course. Yes.
Isaac said, listening to the Spin and Chicklets podcast at around the hour and 9-minute mark, there's an in-depth discussion about Cronin, dysfunctional locker room. Is this something that starts a ball rolling on Cronin being fired? I don't think so.
Yeah, as it stands right now, I don't think so.
Yeah, and he also had now
that
Jim Montgomery has been let go by the Bruins, would you fire Cronin to bring on Montgomery? Why or why not?
Would I do it?
Yeah, I was about to say, you and I would do it because I think Montgomery is a really good coach. I think
he's a better fit for this roster than Cronin is.
I would agree. So I would personally do it.
Also has a better reputation as a player's coach.
Yeah.
So
I don't think Verbeek does it though.
Oh, of course not. But I would rather see Jim Montgomery than Cronin. So.
Rumham said, does Zegras or McTavish end the season with more points? Or which one of those ends the season with more points?
Zegras.
Zegras.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think Zegras has less points right now, but the way he's playing as of late, I think he's just going to blow past McTavish. So
Doom Krauser said, David Jiricek is listed in the Athletics trade board. Do you think Jiricek would be a good fit for the Ducks? Also, what assets do you think the Ducks would need to give up for Jiricek?
I am not sure if Jiricek is a good asset for the Ducks. I mean, he is a right shot defenseman. He's got good size, but the way things are kind of shaking out with him in Columbus, is it, how much of it is the Blue Jackets mishandling him, and how much of it is maybe he's just not as good as we thought?
Yeah.
I'm a little confused about that.
I think you need to be cautious there in the sense of just valuing the player because of draft position.
I mean, he's only 20 and he's about to be 21, but he is an interesting player. I'm just not sure if he's a guy you're moving assets for as the Ducks when you have other pieces in the pipeline. Yeah.
Correct. I think the right-hand side of it makes him more interesting, but you want to be cautious to not be caught kind of with what the Flyers are with Jamie Drysdale and what we know about Drysdale, and that he's not.
But does Jiricek have any injury history?
No, but I guess just mean as a player, he has his warts and hasn't really lived up to the billing of a 6th overall pick for Jamie Drysdale is where I'm getting at with it.
Damn.
And so if you're hyping up the player just because of draft position.
Well, he was he was really well thought of. It's just he hasn't. I guess it just hasn't translated.
Agreed. And I guess that's kind of my point.
I guess it's bad that, but it's also part of the. But that's the thing is is it because of him or is it because of the shit show that has been the Blue Jackets? Because last year was a disaster for the Blue Jackets.
This sounds very similar to the Jamie Drysdale situation. Outside of the injury,
but Jiricek is he is just a better player. Like he was just a better prospect, higher ceiling, all of that than Drysdale. So
there were some people that thought Drysdale had that ceiling, I guess is where I'm.
Yeah, but those people were wrong.
Fair enough.
Drysdale did not have that ceiling.
All right. Tummy Sticks Vet said, since it's been at least 1 week since this has been discussed, what do you think of Zegras on the wing of Leo's line versus being a first/second line center?
Well,
I mean, he's basically playing center.
Well, it was Patrick that pointed out that against Chicago, it felt like it was more Carlson who was the center. But I think Zegras was taking the faceoffs, unless I'm just forgetting.
Yeah.
I don't love it. I just don't think this is ideal. I think they should just both be playing center, no questions asked. Mm-hmm. I understand that Cronin wants to have his analytical line of the Toronto, Strome, and Terry. But for this team's long-term development, you should have both those guys at center. And it kind of works out. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, like right now, it kind of works out because they kind of take their turns playing center on the same line. But I would just rather see them both be centers on their own line. So.
Yeah. Darko Theory kind of piggyback on that said, where do you fit McTavish back in after winning 3 straight without him? I mean, this is kind of what I would do. So what the Ducks look like they're going to do, they're going to have him as a 4th-line center is what they're going to do. What I would do in this situation is I would actually drop Zegras into the spot where Lundestrom is kind of slated at and put him with Gauthier, and if you want it to be Helleson, have it be Helleson, and you put McTavish on Carlson's wing. And you allow him and Carlson to kind of be the two that swap back and forth between center and wing, not Zegras, and you allow Zegras to just play center and just center. And I think that's what I would do in that situation.
Yeah, I think that I would put him at 4th-line center with Helleson and Gauthier, because I think that could be a very interesting line. Both Helleson and Gauthier are good skaters. They've been playing together, and McTavish can kind of just work off of those guys. He gives them, they'll get him the puck. He can get them the puck. Because I still want to see McTavish grow at center. I'm not at the point of shifting him to the wing quite yet.
Okay. Bring Perry Home said, what's more impactful for this team's success in the last couple games? For Beek's coveted right-handers making their way into the lineup, Super Sam 64 and Drew Helleson.
Yes.
Granted, maybe not his first choice, or Mason McTavish sitting out a few games.
What's more impactful? Oh, is he implying that McTavish being out has helped the team?
Correct.
I don't think it's helped the team. I think it's just kind of a net neutral. I don't think he's been missed. I'll say that. Like, I don't think. They're winning games. They're playing well. Most impactful thing. in the last. I mean, I think the most impactful thing is the best young players being the best players on the team. Zellweger leading the pack and the Zegras line being great.
Shooting regression has been
And that too. That too. If you're talking about just the actual results, then yes.
It's funny. I was looking at HockeyViz has a fun chart of just kind of tracking the numbers and kind of smoothing out the line for it. And if you look at, they have a smooth goals per expected goals and a percentage on that. So if you're underneath 0, that means you're scoring less than you should be from an expected goals perspective. If you're over 0%, then you are scoring more than you should from expected goals. The Ducks at around the 12 game mark, it's almost like a 90-degree turn where they were below 0 and then just made like a 90-degree turn to go up. And it just kind of shows from a goal scoring perspective, they have had that regression. And also from a goaltending perspective, they are about 0. So they're basically at this point allowing what they should be allowing from a goals against perspective.
Yeah.
In these games. So, all right. So that I think is it for questions from Discord. So now I'm going to jump to actually a new place. I'm going to jump to Blue Sky right now.
Yes.
Which is, if you look at our screen right now, you will see our handles for Blue Sky instead of Twitter. We have made the jump there. If you are listening to this, both of us are primarily posting on Blue Sky. If you're looking for our opinions, we'll post a few things here and there. On Twitter, post the content. I know Felix, when he puts out his videos, he makes sure to put them out on Twitter in addition so people can find them pretty easily. But go check us out at Blue Sky if you want kind of more of our opinions that you used to find at Twitter. So Plant Ranch said, seems like the Ducks are really good in spurts. Why do you think that is, if you agree with it? Is it Cronin's system is too energy demanding, not enough focus, defense dragging down offense, or something else?
Really good in spurts. I do think that the way that they're always stuck in their zone, or at least the way that they have been stuck in their zone, it really saps their energy and it makes it difficult for them to get out on the rush and get odd man rushes and counterattacks. And I think that when you don't have those kind of higher danger opportunities that you can lean back on every game, you're just going to be more prone to these kind of dry periods. You know, you don't have as many bites at the apple to kind of bail you out. So that could be part of it.
Yep. Let's see other questions here. So Ginger Wolf said, question for the pod. I know everyone's thinking it's so. At what point does Pat Verbeek bite the bullet and bring back Andre Kasha?
Is he playing?
I don't know.
I just want him to be happy and healthy.
Yeah.
I don't care about anything else. Love Andre Kasha. He's the original heartthrob of Crash the Pond.
Yeah. Risu said, given the news about Jim Montgomery, how long would you guess Cronin's contract is? Assuming he doesn't get fired or extended, when can we inference when the search for the next coach will be on? I mean, I would assume it's a 3-year contract. We don't have any information.
Could it be 2 years with a team option?
I think it's probably 3 with a team option for a 4th. And so I would say if he's going to get fired, it would probably be this offseason if things go off the rails again. Likely it's going to be 1 more year on top of that for his contract, though.
Yeah.
Rangdak said, how surprised would you be if Seneca doesn't make the World Junior roster?
I have zero opinion on this. I've seen this come up multiple times today because Scott Wheeler put out his own lines, which, by the way, it's his opinion. I don't know if he's actually projecting what it'll be. I have no opinion.
Seneca has 26 points in 18 games. I have no concept if that's good or not for draft plus one in the AHL or in OHL.
It's not amazing, but yeah. I just don't care. The World Junior is overrated for prospects, so
yeah,
I don't care.
The Rect said, what is the worst for Beak draft pick so far, and why is it Mijatovic? Why didn't they send him to junior this year?
Was he? Well, he was AHL eligible, so why wouldn't you?
I think probably he's saying that he's probably not ready for the AHL, so send him back for an overage season.
I mean, what's better?
You want him in team control.
But, what's better for his development, though? Overage junior season or AHL?
AHL.
You're splitting hairs at that point, and I would agree AHL. I mean, Mijatovic is just Was he a bad pick? If he becomes a fourth line player for this team, was it a bad pick? If he becomes an NHLer, period, was it a bad pick?
No.
I think that if you base it on that, if you base it on who was available and the overall thought process behind it, sure, you can argue it wasn't a great pick because his ceiling's pretty low. But
would you say is the worst one?
He could make everyone look very bad. The worst one. Now I have to look this up. Just keep asking other questions, and I'll give you an answer.
Logan said, when Zegras starts producing, do the rumors go away, or will all media outlets continue to milk the story? I'll answer this one. The rumors won't go away until he signs an extension.
Yep.
Like that is just where it's at. If he starts scoring, it's going to be he's producing to make himself available on a trade. Like that's just where all this is going to go. It won't go away until he signs an extension or he's traded. Either way.
I think that's the correct take. Yes.
And then Logan also said Gibson rumors are heating up again. Freddie Anderson could be out 3 months in Carolina. Colorado and Edmonton are also subpar in net. Where do you think is his most likely destination? Who do the Ducks target for a return? I mean, it sounds like from the piece that's come out that Colorado is happy with their goaltending. So I don't know if they will be a piece. I think Carolina would be most likely. That seems like the one that people are really putting them at. No, B. Doddles points out in our YouTube chat that the Ducks aren't getting Natchez anymore. Man,
that situation seems to have resolved.
Do we look smart for targeting Natchez, though, with how well he's playing?
He's looked amazing.
He's looked so good. But at this point, I'm not sure what you would target in return because, I mean, the issue is Carolina doesn't really have a goalie to give you, and you would kind of want someone to take Gibson's role. I mean, maybe you take back Anderson's contract and you just have Anderson play down the stretch for you because I think he's going to be back in like January or February or something along those lines. And don't quote me on that. Don't know that off the top of my head. I'll look that up as we keep going.
Well, also, like, what's the motivator to trade Gibson right now?
There isn't really one outside of doing him a favor, basically, at this point.
Yeah. Okay, I think I have an answer for you.
Okay.
Regarding the draft. So I've seen people diss the Nathan Gauthier pick. Here are the guys they got picked after him. Like, tell me how many of these guys you would take over him. You don't have to answer, but Jimmy Snuggerud, Danila Yurov. Okay, I could see some people wanting those guys over him. Sam Renzel, Philip Mashar, Philip Biestet, Yuri Kulich, Maverick Lamoureux, Brad Lambert. Like, sure, there's some good players in there, but is there like a huge miss? I don't really hate the Nathan Gauthier pick. Would he have been the guy I picked at that rank? Yeah, maybe. Or sorry, no, maybe not, but I don't think it's a huge miss. I don't really think the Ducks have a huge miss since Verbeek has been drafting. The one pick that I just hate is Connor Smith in 2023, and it's a 4th round pick, 97th overall. I just don't think he's good at all. I don't think he's ever going to be an NHLer. I don't even know if he's going to be an AHLer. Like, he just sucks. I don't know how else to say it. So yeah, but if that's your worst pick, then you're doing okay.
Yep. All right, and then we'll go to Twitter, and then we'll finish off with some from YouTube and Twitch. But Nicholas said, are you guys worried that Cronin and Verbeek focus on making Zegras a more competitive player, or complete player, and that has ruined him or made him a player he isn't, and taken away the skillful stuff out of him? He never seems to deke or look like he's having fun playing this way. And then said #fly together from Denmark. So I think that's where the enthusiasm comes from, is kind of trying to read his body language. I mean, he's still making really, really highly skilled plays, though. Like, yeah, I mean, I would kind of push back on that.
He's doing it every single game. I mean, it's just maybe not as much as we were used to in the past, but the Chicago game, he was just messing around. He was trying stuff.
The Killorn goal was completely set up by him doing an insane pass, and I think he's made a bunch of those. I just think he's being maybe defended a bit differently than he was previously, and he's having to make adjustments to it. I don't think it's necessarily as a result of Cronin. I just think it's adjustments have to be made in his game. But I also think in addition to that, he has made huge adjustments in his defensive game to really be a more complete player in his own zone. And I don't think that's really hurt him in the offensive side, though.
There's also this whole narrative of like, oh, well, if he's doing all these great things on the eye test, then why are his stats bad this season? And it's like, how old is the season for the Ducks? 14 games? 15 games?
I think it's like 17 now, but still.
17? Of those 17 games, he started the season on the wing, which we just know is not a great spot for him.
18 games, sorry.
And since he's been shifted to center, he has looked great. And that number of games is not very high. You just have to give it time.
Yeah.
There's going to be a point where
and
what he's doing on the ice from an eye test level will be reflected in the stat sheet. You just have to have the patience to get there.
And you had texted me that you had looked at his numbers at center versus his numbers on the wing, and
yeah, he's improved.
It's jarringly different between the two, which checks out, honestly.
Yeah, when he was just his time at the wing, he was sub 40% expected goals for percentage. So the Ducks were getting destroyed. They were getting destroyed at 5-on-5 with him on the ice. And since then, he's almost at 50% since that time. So
which for the Ducks, which are currently sitting at a 41% expected goals share on the season, that's significantly above average for this team.
I'm being told that Connor Smith has a point per game in the OHL right now. That's nice. He's 20.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care at all. He can score 1,000 points this year. I just won't care.
Yeah. Yep. And then let's get what Glocky Molo said, if the Penguins fire Sullivan, would you rather have Montgomery or Sullivan as the new head coach? And what would you think about trade? Really? Okay.
Yes. And Mike Sullivan's overrated at this point.
Okay. And what would you think about trading for Raquel to fill that top 6 right shot spot that Verbeek was talking about all summer? The term on Raquel's contract's hard.
Yeah, I'm not interested in Raquel because of the contract. I like him as a player, but the contract is just not ideal.
Yeah.
And also, Beckett Seneca will be here in what, a year?
Well, and if
maybe 2,
if Sam Colangelo can become that middle 6 winger, there's that.
Yeah, top line winger.
Here we go. Trevor Zegras asked us, who gets a short-term deal and who gets a long-term deal out of these players? So just
guys, we're not even 20 games in this season. You're asking us about contracts?
This is quick hitting right now. Dostal.
I think everyone goes short.
You think Dostal goes short? I think he's coming. He's going to go long term.
Well, okay. You think Verbeek's going to get a long term contract?
Yeah, because Dostal's coming up towards UFA status.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dostal's in a different position than the other guys because he's on his bridge deal right now. Dostal long term.
True. Okay, I agree now. Yes.
McTavish short term.
Short. He is not getting an 8-year deal.
And then in 2026, Zegras.
Will Zegras be on the team by then?
Well, if he's on, let's assume if he's on the team long term, is what he gets.
I'll go. Yes, he gets a long term deal.
Like it's either he's getting a long term deal or he's traded.
Yeah, or he's gone.
Yeah, so. Those are the two. And then I think, what about Carlson?
What do you think of his season so far?
I think it's been up and down, but I think this is in 2026. I'll say long term in 2026.
I have a hard time seeing him getting a bridge deal. Like it just feels something about it just feels wrong in a way that it doesn't for a guy like McTavish or Zegras. So I will say that he is the one that will buck the trend.
Yep. But Zellweger, Gauthier, Minchikov, Luneau, I think bridges for all of those guys.
I could see Cutter Gauthier getting a long-term deal. They really seem to love him.
That would maybe him and Minchikov. I think Zellweger and Luneau for sure bridges, but maybe Gauthier and Minchikov long term.
Because it's like they really like him. Part of the reason he's here is because they were willing to give him what Philly wasn't going to give him. Like I could see him getting the long-term deal. So
yeah. All right, now we're going to go to Twitch and YouTube. So if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast services, you can find us at twitch.tv/crashthepond, where if you have Amazon Prime, you can support us in a way that's completely free to you with a Twitch Prime gaming sub, and it does help us out more than you can imagine. You can be just like our good friend Lou, who subbed for 74 months and said, "Hi, have a good podcast." So thank you, Lou. Or if you prefer YouTube, and if you have a YouTube account, and yes, I know everyone listening to this has a YouTube account. Everyone and their mother, and their maybe not their grandmother, because my grandma does not have that or have a YouTube account. But subscribe to us at youtube.com/crashthepond. All right, so here we go. Ducks for Cups 2029 said, question, do you think Zegras essentially had to force himself back into the role of a top-line forward on this team?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think so. And then Ducks for Cup 2029 said it feels like the plan was to have guys like McTavish and Gauthier surpass him in the depth chart. I mean, I don't think so.
I don't think the plan was for him to be surpassed. The plan was just that those guys had a different stature in the lineup. But
yeah, yep. And then Dissing You said mustaches in for the boys. We have mustaches for Movember.
We have
that's
mustaches.
what we're doing. Mustaches on this podcast. Felix shaved for it. But for those of you who don't know, go check out Movember.com. Donate to there. Raising awareness for men's health with this mustache. Have a good family friend that's battling something out there. So really wanted to do this for him. And so thinking and hoping that he gets through it. So, but trying to raise awareness for that for everyone out there. So, and Dissing You also said out on Cronin. We talked about it in depth. So I think if
am I not out on Cronin?
Are you out on Cronin?
Am I in on Cronin?
I think we're just neutral on Cronin right now.
I think I'm. No, let me.
Are you 1 foot out the door?
The door is open.
Okay.
The door is open. We're doing the thing where, like, you know, it's the end of the conversation and we're kind of like breaking eye contact, kind of like, you know, you start posturing away to end the conversation. It's like, all right, time for you to go, kind of thing, like slowly, but we're not all the way broken off yet. Still exchanging some pleasantries. I just frankly have a hard time envisioning him as the long-term coach of this team to bring them back to like elite contention. I think he can bring them back to like a wild card spot, but I have a hard time seeing him being the guy to kind of elevate this team to that level. So I'm out on him long-term, I think.
I would agree with that overall. Let's see. Nasrini Prihati says, out of curiosity, we drafted both Lacombe and Thrun. Now both players are in the NHL. Which one do you prefer? I don't really know Henry Thrun's game that well, to be honest.
Back in the day, I preferred Henry Thrun.
Same.
But Lacombe is really, really out. You know, he has exceeded all my expectations from the NHL. So I'm good with Lacombe.
Yep. Let's see. B-Doll said, kind of, are there better options than Cronin is his question. I mean, I think for sure Jim Montgomery is better than Greg Cronin.
Well, it's also like we need to be careful with how we frame that question because it's like I think Cronin will be the coach for this entire season. I think he might even be the coach for next season. So it's like it's hard to even ask that question right now because we don't even know who's going to be available when that question comes up, like for real, because it's not coming up right now. Cronin is not getting fired before Christmas in a season where like the team is actually like they're on pace, right? They're like Micah Hockey Viz has them projected for like 80 points right now. That would be an improvement from last year. Yep. You're not firing your coach in that circumstance. At least I don't see Verbeek doing that. So
yeah, and so agreed. I don't see him firing him. The only way I think he is fired is if they are like, I don't know, awful, like worse than the league type of deal. Mike Cosley asked a question: if the Ducks finish bottom 5 again in league, do you see them trying to make a younger core and build around Leo, Minchikov, Zellweger, Gauthier, and move on from Z McTavish to get a top player?
That's an interesting thought because,
I mean, we've talked about it with like the Marner trade, right? That we said like if you were to get rid of Zegras, it would need to be for a better player.
Do you think that in a way, is that making a younger core, or is it just basically those guys are your core anyway?
Yeah.
And you're just finding a different way of supplementing that core.
Yep.
Because that to me is kind of an all-in move in a way.
I mean,
it like that is not a rebuilding move. If you're flipping young pieces for an established player, that's you're trying to make the playoffs at that point.
The funny part is that they could do that without even flipping. Just go after guys in free agency. Like if Marner and Rantanen make it to free agency, you can do that without losing Zegras and McTavish.
Yeah, but you could probably. I mean, trading just opens up possibilities.
Yeah, but sure, but it requires you to get back value for those guys, and right now I think the issue with trading Zegras is I don't think you get proper value back for him.
Do you get positive value if you trade McTavish?
Yes. I think McTavish. I think they are the complete opposite.
Are you out on Mason McTavish?
I'm not. I just think that his value around the league is higher than he is actually worth.
Wow.
versus
You're
Zegras
out.
is the complete flip.
You're out. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's part of a rebuild is you have to make hard choices at some point. Not
Yeah.
everybody's going to be there when the cup gets hoisted, if it ever does. But, at some point, like, you look at all the great rebuilds, the ones that worked, at some point, a big move had to be made. And the Ducks are approaching that time, which is weird because they haven't even sniffed the playoffs yet, but that's just the reality. So
Ducks for Cup 2029 said, question, do you think at any point in the remainder of the season the Ducks find themselves in a wild card spot?
the Pacific Division is not good right now. It might actually be the worst division in the league, just based off of how teams are projecting points-wise. So, with that being said, let's look at the actual standings, just to make sure I'm not looking like a fool here. Last place in the wild card race is 22 points. The Ducks have 18 points, and they have 3 games in hand on the Oilers. I say they do it. I say they, like, I'm not saying they're going to stay there, but, like, there may be a time where somehow they find themselves there. Like, what if they win the next 3 games? Isn't it totally feasible for them to I mean, Seattle is 10-9-1, but has not been a very good team at all. I could see them beating Seattle twice, and maybe they get one against the Sabres, and all of a sudden that's plus 6 points. So they could be there at some point this season.
Yeah. Let's end with this, and then we'll get to shit show and then get out of here because we're over an hour and a half already, but there was a lot to talk about. Steve Hashigian said, should the Ducks have drafted Kent Johnson instead of Mason McTavish? No, Kent Johnson is worse than Mason McTavish.
I honestly I don't even know anything about Johnson at this point.
I just looked. His underlying metrics aren't great. He's
playing in Columbus though.
Yeah, like, Mason McTavish is playing here.
Yeah, but Zegras is playing like this is why I try not to judge young players on other teams because I know how much if you looked at Zegras' stats, you would be like maybe fooled and think he's bad, and I just disagree with that. So
where I'm getting at here, though,
my answer is I just don't know. I just
think McTavish is better. Like, and I'm not that high on McTavish, but McTavish has had more production than Kent Johnson has over the course of their careers. McTavish is nearing 100 points. He's at 96 points in 166 games. Kent Johnson is at 64 points in 134 games. So he's just been a more productive player over that period of time. I think in a similar amount of games played, a slightly more amount of games played. And so I just think McTavish is the better player. Maybe not that high, but I don't think I would look at that and say, no, they should have drafted Kent Johnson over McTavish. Like, essentially stating that was a mistake.
Your opinion?
Yep. Man, we just got a couple other questions that are fun, but you want to just move on to shit show?
How do you avoid a perpetual rebuild? I mean, you have to draft the right players.
Yeah.
You have to draft the right players, make the right moves. You have to be right, like 90% of the time.
Yeah. And then, are you happy that the Ducks didn't sign Stamkos, or that Stamkos and Marchessault did not sign for the Ducks?
I was never a huge believer in those moves. So, for me, it's just like, this is what I expected.
Yeah.
By the way, the Sabres are 22nd in expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. The Golden Knights are 24th.
Mm-hmm.
The Kraken are 27th. The Flames are 25th. Is anyone good in the Pacific outside of the Oilers? I guess the
Kings. The Kings are okay.
Kings are okay, but
Kings okay to solid.
Kings have great underlying numbers, but I feel like I don't believe in their roster. That makes sense.
Oh, it does.
So, yeah.
All right, let's get to these shit show questions.
Interesting times.
Tummy Sticks Vet, and I don't get this, but says,
Why
would
is
you
that his
rather
name?
whip or splat? I don't
get it.
I don't get it. I just read it to make him happy. Hey OD Flow said, can Felix describe what his typical deep focus time is like?
Deep focus time. What is he referencing? I don't understand.
Lisa said, who is the most famous contact in your phone?
Well, I believe in confidentiality, so that will remain unnamed.
I will go with. Let's see. Who can I say is the most famous person in my phone? Well, I'm gonna go with someone that has 4,479 followers on X, formerly known as Twitter, and potentially everyone abandoning it to go to Blue Sky because Blue Sky is better. I'm gonna go with Derek Lee.
Wow, I love how you flipped that on him.
I did.
Love how you flip. Wait, I have more followers than him. Doesn't that mean, by your logic, no.
I don't know.
No,
I just wanted to flip it.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Denver Broncos are going 6-11. Said, how will the pushbackers respond to a tough loss in fantasy football last week?
I feel like all these questions are somehow aimed at me, like little jabs at me. So we have a fantasy football league for Crash the Pond, and I put up the second highest points in the league by a lot. I would have beaten everybody else, but our good friend Johnny almost put up 200 points, so I had no chance, and so I lost. So it's really frustrating because it shows up as a loss, but I'm like so much better than almost everyone else in our league, and yet I'm 6-5. I think I have actually the most points in the league, but I'm 6-5. It's just a broken system. But I anticipate a win this week against our good buddy Derek. So,
Lou, our good friend Lou said, "What cards has Felix gotten on the Pokemon trading card game pocket?"
Can we stop it with these fads? Pokemon came out in like what, the 90s?
Pokemon's still great. Don't you hate on Pokemon?
I'm so sick of these fads.
Pokemon Go was a fad.
College football 25. That's the first fad. There's another fad.
Are your fads just things that Lou is happy about?
The college football 25. This Black Ops. Why is there a sixth Black Ops games? That's just insanity.
Why are there new NHL games every season?
There shouldn't be. Yeah. In all seriousness, like, people can do whatever they want to enjoy. I'm just being a curmudgeon. I'm just being a curmudgeon. It's my new bit, or maybe it's just who I am. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Don't answer that question. Don't answer that question.
All right, we should get out of here though. We're at an hour, almost hour 45.
How about this?
Yeah.
Instead of doing a blind ranking, because I kind of want to give it like, we should let that one breathe a little bit.
Okay.
Unless you want to do one.
I'll leave it up to you. You are steering the ship now. my ship steering is done once we get through all those questions.
Well, we're about to hit rough waters, so I don't know if you want me. I don't know if you want me steering a ship. I'll give you a fun thing that is not a blind ranking. Start, bench, cut.
Okay.
Start, bench, cut. Derek Grant, Simon Benoit, or Ross Johnston.
Sorry, say that one more time.
So, have you heard of the game?
Yes.
I can't say it out loud, but
yes. Is this FMK, because someone put this in our YouTube
Someone
chat?
said FMK, but I'm going to change it to start, bench, cut because that's the PG version. Start, bench, cut. Do you know what that means? Are you understanding the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
I don't understand. My brain is broken by this though.
Derek Grant, Simon Benoit, Ross Johnston. I think this is pretty easy, actually. Okay, I think the start is really easy.
Who would you start?
Ross Johnston. Ross the boss. Do you disagree? Who are you starting over him? I think Benoit's terrible.
Benoit's terrible, and I was debating about Grant. I'm like trying to in my brain figure out how much of Grant I assign to just him being bad and how much I assign to
Grant was
Dallas
a good penalty
Hankins.
killer.
How much I assign?
He was a power killer.
And Ross, it's like, yes, he deserves credit for this season, but do we just throw away the history of evidence that we have from prior seasons that he's not good? Like,
at least Derek Grant could do something.
I think I would start Grant, I'd bench Johnston, and I would cut Benoit.
Yeah, because at least Derek Grant had like something that you could point to and be like, yes, you can do that. So good job there.
But yeah, none of those should be on the team. We'll go with that. Can we just can we do a cut all three?
Well, one of them is on the team.
Yeah, I'm giving him credit for playing well. I still don't want him on the team though.
There's a blind ranking that I'm not sure would pass muster, but I kind of want to hit you with it anyway.
I'm now just going in my head of how many seasons of Derek Grant we covered, and it hurts.
Too many. There's like 5. It's like the majority of the seasons.
How many times I got pissed off about Derek Grant, or people telling me, or the
broadcast telling
me, the broadcast telling me that he's good. Oh, Lou asks a really good question. Mouth update.
Ignoring that, but
okay.
Here's something with Derek Grant. Is he like just the worst looking player ever? Like not his physical appearance, but just like the hunched over, like weird skating style.
Wow.
Like possibly the worst style of any player ever that I've seen. Just like everything about his setup, just bad. Has white tape for some unknown reason. He made the white tape look bad. I have a funny story about that, but I'm in the interest of confidentiality.
That is the reason why I'm laughing, is that story that I know.
There is a story behind that maybe one day I'll tell on a Patreon pod. Okay, lightning round of blind rankings. Round of blind rankings. We're approaching 2 hours. This is turning into a Joe Rogan podcast.
This is we talked about chiclets, and now our episode's becoming one of theirs with the length.
Okay, dangerous animals blind ranking. So for those who don't know blind ranking, you have to rank things 1 through 5 without knowing what comes next. Dangerous animals, eagle. I don't know what you're ranking on here.
2.
Danger level? Okay. Eagle is at 2. Chameleon. Are chameleons dangerous? I guess because they blend in. You don't know what they're going to be.
5. 5.
They're not dangerous.
Yeah, that's a 5.
Leopard. Oof.
1.
I
may have gone too high with eagle.
Wild dog.
4.
4, yeah.
Well, it depends on the size of the dog. I'm going with like a medium-sized dog, though.
This is the one that should have been first. And it is your number 3. Spiders.
No.
Spiders can kill. Spiders can kill.
So could eagles?
Yeah, but you can get away from an eagle.
You can very easily kill a spider, though.
But you have to see it coming, though.
Yeah, we also have like doctors that have venom antidotes.
That sounds like a video game like Power Up that you just like hold X at the box, and then all of a sudden you're healed again.
I definitely was thinking about Pokemon when I said that.
Ugh. Okay. Blind ranking football teams, and by football I mean soccer.
Okay.
Real Madrid.
I'll go with a solid 3.
3. Okay. Good logo. Very nice logo. Napoli.
2.
2.
Fun, exciting football team. They for an Italian team, they play up pace.
Wow. Just say you hate Italian football without saying you hate Italian football.
Italian football can be gross. It's too defensive.
Bayer Leverkusen.
I'll go with 4.
Wow, not 5. Interesting.
By the way, Bayer Leverkusen, I think, won the Bundesliga last year also. But yeah, Tottenham won.
Tottenham won. God damn it.
You're lucky. I almost put Bayer Leverkusen won because I was like, I don't think Tottenham will be in this. But I left it open, and the bet paid off.
Liverpool is your 5.
All right. This list is pretty perfect. I would probably swap Leverkusen and Napoli and maybe put Madrid 4th.
So also just change all of it, but
keep 1 and 5 the same.
Okay.
Mix up the middle, but 1 and 5 came out well.
I kind of want to do. I want to do this just to see how you react. Blind rank NBA teams. So for those who don't know, Jake is not an NBA fan.
Nope.
This is like the one sport, maybe football too, that you just don't.
Football, I somewhat know.
Yeah, because you do play fantasy football, so like you know things.
Yeah.
But basketball, I feel like you just don't. That's the one that you don't.
Unless we're talking about like 15 years ago. No.
Well, yeah. Milwaukee Bucks. Did you know that was a team?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And they won the championship like 2 years ago with Giannis.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
I know. I do know stuff.
That's actually that's a lot more than I thought you know.
I'll go and don't know. The Minnesota Timberwolves had a former USC player. I'm spacing on his name. Jordan McLaughlin.
Are you gonna rank the Bucks or what?
I'll do 2.
2. Wow. Okay.
They seem likable.
They're like, okay, that's the criteria. Got it. Detroit Pistons. You may have some bad memories as a Laker fan.
Yeah, I'm going 5.
5. Okay. Appropriate. Memphis Grizzlies. Did you know that was a team?
Yeah, I did, and I remember, wasn't there the whole thing? Was it last season or 2 seasons ago with that one dude?
The gun?
No, I wasn't even thinking about that. But yes, there
Oh.
is that. But I was thinking about that one dude that like everyone hated. And
Yeah, Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks. Was it against the Lakers that he was like talking mad trash and that happened?
Oh, yeah. Him and LeBron had crazy beef.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go 4.
That's right. Wow, look at
See?
you. What the hell?
Yeah,
What the hell? I'm shocked. I'm shook.
yeah.
Okay, Cleveland Cavaliers.
I'll go 3.
3. Your number 1 is the San Antonio Spurs.
Man,
Spurs,
I hate that.
there you go.
I actually dislike the San Antonio Spurs.
Spurs twice in a row, though.
Yeah,
Tottenham Spurs
fair.
and San Antonio Spurs.
Fair.
All right, 2 more. We're plowing through these.
So
All right,
this thing is just going 2 hours, isn't it?
cartoon characters.
Okay.
Bugs Bunny. That is a
5.
classic. What? What's up, Doc?
5.
Courage the Cowardly Dog. Ooh, that's a 1. That's a 1 for me.
That's a 2.
That's 2. Okay. Eric Cartman. Ooh, I don't care about South Park.
3.
3. Wow. Okay. Goofy. That's gonna be
1.
your 1. That's
1.
gonna be your 1. Company Man. Company Man, and your 4 is Patrick Starr. So.
Content. I could have swapped Courage and Patrick. And
Okay.
I'd be more happy.
I'm gonna let everyone know this next one might be a little, I don't want to say NSFW, but maybe a little more controversial. So if you don't want to hear this, turn off the podcast right now.
Oh,
Okay.
What are you giving me?
We are blind ranking red flags. I'm not really sure if this is like a dating red flag or a personality red flag, but some of these may they may say something about your beliefs or whatever, but
Lovely.
it's fun. We're 2 out. There's no way anyone's still listening, so it's fine. It's fine.
We have 54 people right now watching us live.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, I'm gonna refresh this. Okay, red flag number 1: still uses Snapchat. How big of a red flag is that?
People still use Snapchat.
Well,
I guess on the level of like red flags, if we're going like least bad, okay, I'm gonna say 5 is least bad, so I'll do 5 because
yeah,
I don't.
It's not a huge red flag. It's just
not
weird.
a huge red flag, but weird.
Yeah. Okay. He hates feminists. So this is the dating aspect.
I guess 1.
If you knew something about a guy in terms of potential red flags, and you knew he hated feminists,
1.
this is probably a 1.
Don't need assholes.
I'm hoping it doesn't get any worse than this.
I hope.
Okay. Self-proclaimed alpha male. Ooh,
that's also that's a 1 or a 2, so 2.
That's a 1B, 1A.
Anyone who's a self-proclaimed alpha male is not indeed an alpha male.
This is fun. Okay. Talks too much. I feel like you and I are just can't.
Yeah, it's a 4.
We can't have an opinion on that one.
Yeah, 4, I guess.
Your number 3 is she breathes. So that's just messed up. But
Okay.
like I said, trigger warning. So you've been warned.
I'm happy with the 1-2 punch there, though.
Your 1-2 is pretty strong.
Yeah.
I think you did a good job here.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 hours. Wow. Are we about to win an election because of the length of our podcast? Too much. Did I just ostracize our base? I don't know. Stay tuned to find out. Anyway, if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to support it, see it grow, nurture it, coddle it, cuddle it, there's a few really easy ways to support the show. Number 1, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/crashthepond. Bonus content, hordes and hordes of content, splatting everywhere content. Video content, great stuff. Go get it. You can also leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. Actually, I'm curious, did we get any reviews? We asked people for reviews.
Logan said it's a bad time to ask for a like spike. Yeah, give us a like spike.
Yeah,
I didn't forgot that.
Give us a like spike. But yeah, on the Patreon, though, for $2 a month, you get access to a patrons-only Discord channel, which is a great way to connect with us, to connect with the great community that's been built there. It's just the best. And also, you can up that pledge to $7.50 a month. You get access to bonus video content as well as bonus podcasts. So it's really just a great way to support and to increase your enjoyment of this team. Leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave us feedback and a rating on Spotify. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Blue Sky. Yeah, Blue Sky. Go
Blue
team.
Blue Sky's where it's at.
Go us. Go us. Honestly, look at us. Who would have thought? And you can also find us on X, formerly known as Twitter. And that's going to do it. Thanks for listening. 2 hours. Wow, I can't believe this. I feel kind of dirty, but we did it. It was fun. 3-game winning streak. Time to go streaking. Have a good one.
Bye.